I just want you to know that I'm playing hurt today.
Hurt like feelings or body?
That's a very good question. Normally it's feelings.
Oh, no.
Today it's body. So for all of our single of tens of YouTube viewers, they know that every week on our Monday podcast, we gussy ourselves up to look as good as humanly possible, which
I don't know about that.
which is hard for this crew.
I will say from here up, we try to do our best.
Yeah, from mid-chest to top of head,
We try to do our best.
I try to look as great as humanly possible.
Thank God there aren't cameras below.
That'd be weird. That's a different podcast. That's a different Twitch stream. So I got back from the gym. I took a shower. I go through my daily maintenance to make myself look this good because this is not natural. I did not wake up like this, contrary to what Beyonce says. And I use this hairspray that is maybe one notch lower than super glue.
Ah.
Right? You know,
yeah.
I mean, the stuff that is meant to withstand gale force winds.
Right.
And we live in northern Nevada where that can actually happen.
Right.
And so I'm at the step in my hair care process, of which there are many, to where I need to now add this thick lacquer to my hair.
Okay.
And because it is a version of super glue,
Right.
it sticks in that little nozzle head, right? It can get coated.
Right. So you have to run warm water on it or whatever.
In theory.
Poke it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know that, but I forget about it every time.
Yeah.
I press the little nozzle, and as if it was laser guided from the Pentagon, went straight into my eye.
Oh,
Directly
wow.
into my eye.
Super glue in your eye.
I could have tried it 1,000 different times in 1,000 different angles and could not have been as consistent as this one thing was. So I'm dealing with partial paralysis of the eye because it's just stuck in one position because of the glue. I'm happy that my eye wasn't closed because I probably wouldn't have been able to get it open for all of you YouTube viewers. So I just want you to know I'm playing hurt. Yeah.
This is good right now.
I got a little bit of a Popeye thing going on right now, but I'm playing hurt. And I'm doing this for you guys because it's the new year, new me, play through self-inflicted wounds.
This reminds me, this just flew into my head. Do you remember when I put oregano oil in my eye?
I do remember when you put oregano oil in your eye because you did that by your own volition. That was something you chose to do yourself.
Yeah.
Please, by all means, tell the story.
So I think Dad and I were leaving for Europe the next day.
Sweet humble brag.
For like a month.
Yep.
So
even sweeter humble brag.
You want to be like feeling good, in good shape, happy. You had a job you absolutely hated.
Despised on every conceivable level.
And I think your girlfriend had just flown in.
It was I want to say maybe her first. No, it wasn't her first time visiting Reno, but it was like her second time being here.
So it would have been like a long weekend for you if you would have taken the day off.
Right.
But you couldn't get the day off because
I was still so new, and this crew was like not generous. They would want you to believe that they were this cool, up and coming startup. They weren't. That they were hip and trendy. They weren't. And that everything was copacetic and we run like Google. They didn't. So when you asked for anything, it was this big to do. Like you kind of had to prove it to them. And we are nothing if not resourceful in this household. And you said, Kevin, a lot of these people in this company have younger kids. Nobody knows or nobody wants somebody with pink eye around. So you need to kind of come up with a bit of a fib about pink eye. And I said, okay, but Deb, these people are going to want to see pink eye. And you're like, what are you talking about? I said, they're going to want to see it. They are going to want to see that I have pink eye. These cool, hip startups, people who aren't anything but that, they're going to want photographic evidence. And so you said, deal. And what did you do?
So I just remembered that your girlfriend was horrified by watching this. Like
this is why I think it was one of her first times coming here, because this was like the introduction to the insanity that can be this house.
So I went and got, if anybody has ever used oregano oil, I don't mean like an oil to cook with, I mean like an essential oil. It has it's called a hot oil because it has a burning effect.
Because it's oregano.
because it's oregano.
It's derived from
So
oregano.
if you were going to drink it, it would be like a baby drop in a giant glass of warm water. And then you just try to get it down because you would feel the burn, right?
Totally.
If you put it on your skin, maybe not on your hand, but anywhere where there's fragile skin, it'll feel okay for a second. And then the burn, and it could leave a mark.
It'll burn and it'll be an irritant for at least 30 minutes, like a big red blotch.
Right. So I said, just take a little bit. We were at the dining room table. Just take a little bit of oregano oil on the tip of your finger.
You had it in one of those cylindrical rollers because you could like roll it on your face.
I said, just put some on your finger, a little tiny bit, not much, and then
Touch your eye. Put a little bit on your finger and then touch your eye. And I said, you first.
So I did it. All I remember this, turning and looking at Dad, who was horrified. Because
Utterly
like,
mortified.
You're going to be in the hospital tomorrow. We're not going to be on our trip.
Yep.
Right? And your girlfriend who was like, oh, dear God, what
I thought Southerners were crazy. West Coast people are even more insane.
So what happens is it burns. This is not to be recommended to do under any circumstances.
Not do this. There's a lot of things we tell you not to do, like listen to us, particularly this time.
Don't do it.
It's so bad.
Keep oregano oil away from small children.
And the Zeners.
So immediately my eye, got red. Tears gushed out of it. It started to swell. I couldn't get it open. I think somebody jumped up and got a cold, compress. I looked like I had gotten punched in the eye.
After maybe 30 seconds, you couldn't open your eye.
I couldn't open my eye.
I thought, well, this is how my mom dies. She's going to start off being blind and it's going to move into her circulatory system because that's what I know about medicine, and she's going to die.
So we kind of waited it out. And in about a half an hour, it started to, I knew it was getting better. My eye was still really red.
Yes.
But I could feel.
I drove down to the store to grab some solution so you could flush your eye out because we thought you were going to go blind.
So I knew it was getting better. And I remember having the consciousness to look at you and go, does my eye look really bad?
Yeah, it looked awful.
And I said, that's what you need.
It looked like,
that's what you need.
If we were going for pink eye, it looked like somebody farted directly into your ocular cavity.
So I woke up in the morning. I was completely fine.
Oh, I would say like an hour later you were fine.
Yeah, completely fine.
Yeah.
So we knew it wasn't permanent damage. But what happened is you said they're going to want a prescription.
Well, here's the kicker.
For the pink eye.
Did you guys just hear everything we just said? Did you hear us mention how awful this experience was for my mom? Because I did it a day later. I willingly did it. I saw how horrible it was to my mother, and I thought to myself,
this is a good idea.
I got this in the bag. So I did it to myself. I watched somebody who I thought was going to go blind hurt themselves, and I said, yeah, let's double down on this.
So did you actually go in, or did you just send a picture of yourself?
I just sent a picture.
And said, I have pink eye.
I said I had pink eye, did not let them know it was self-inflicted. And then I said to you, they're going to want a prescription because she asked, the HR woman said, what doctor are you going to?
Yeah.
Because, that's just what chill people do. They ask your specific medical provider, who are you seeing? And I had to come up with somebody. And then this sweet, innocent, self-inflicted wound grew to us asking
a little fib turned it.
It was bad.
It was bad.
This was a learning experience.
Now we've included innocent people.
We needed to get a pharmacist to give us a not full of anything prescription bottle with my name on it so that I could then send that picture to them. We sound like absolute delinquents.
But we did tell the pharmacist what we were trying to do. We said,
be culpable with us.
We don't want medicine. We just want you to print because the medicine comes in a tube. Uh-huh. We just want you to print a label with Kevin with this doctor's name on it, on a box.
Just on a box.
With nothing in it.
Yep.
And give it to Kevin. He'll come by and get it.
Yep.
And he did.
Yes. And
we've got friends in high places.
In the year, 2016, that's what I needed to do to get out of work. I needed to temporarily blind myself, have somebody commit what I assume is some type of felony for their profession, and then send the corresponding pictures to make sure that my then boss knew how not ill, but ill I was.
Of your eye and of the box.
Yep.
And then I remember you told me because now I'm off in Europe and we're just texting. And you said to me, I've got to take the box in my pocket and set it on my desk at work on Monday.
Commit to the bit, baby. Commit to the bit.
Yeah, that was bad.
And I did.
Oh, we're bad people.
That's true, but guess what?
It worked.
I had a 4-day weekend. Let's start the podcast.
Welcome to the Deb and Kev podcast. One is a Harvard Business School alum. The other is her son, discussing business, pop culture, family, and everything in between. Now, here are your hosts, Deb and Kev.
Hey, hi, hello, and welcome to the Deb and Kev podcast, the first podcast of the best year on record, 2021. New year, same seat. Sitting across from me is my mother, Deb.
I'm Deb.
And I am her son, who has been medically diagnosed as having an addiction to eggnog. We'll get to that in a second. I'm Kev, and this is our podcast. I want to talk about the dinner guest that we had on Friday, and the totally unexpected presents that she brought with her.
Right.
Let me set the table. Our friend Alyssa, who was on the Compliment cast, was supposed to come over to our house for Christmas. Mm-hmm. She couldn't come over to for Christmas because she works in the medical field and she had been exposed to at least like 2 or 3 people who had tested positive for COVID. So because we're the responsible people we are, we said, get your disgusting self away from us and quarantine yourself for 14 days.
She actually said that.
But it's because we put that out there.
Okay.
We don't want your illness here. And that 14 days sadly overlapped with Christmas. So you guys decided that once her quarantine was up and she was clearly fine, that we would just extend that invitation to New Year's Day.
Yep.
By the way, this entire week has just been one long day for me. I have no actual time.
Yeah.
So she came over. I think you gaslit me into not only making all of the dinner, but then I somehow made the entire dessert too.
Well, no. What happened?
No. You say no. I did all of the dinner, and then I made all of the dessert too.
But there was no gaslighting.
That's what people who gaslight you say.
No. I came downstairs, and I had curlers in my hair and a nightgown on. We were still a couple hours from her coming over, and I started to get the potatoes out because we were making sun-dried tomato pesto potatoes with grilled salmon on top and deep-fried Brussels sprouts.
And who was in the kitchen?
You were in the kitchen.
Got
and
it.
You said, hey, Mom, let me do those potatoes. You go get ready.
Well,
I said, okay, sweetie, thank you.
Let's add some context to this because you came down in your nightgown with curlers in. It was 3:30. She was supposed to be here in an hour.
Oh, no. I think it was earlier than that.
And I said, why don't you go finish getting ready and I'll do the potatoes? I mean, who doesn't love to just peel a potato mindlessly and watch television? Hand up, I do.
On my way out of the kitchen, I also said, grab the Brussels sprouts and cut those up too.
Yep.
Thank you.
Which doesn't mean grab the Brussels sprouts and cut those up too. It also means add some garlic to them, throw some olive oil on them, and then put them on the cookie sheet to bake later.
Right. Well, of course, that's what it means.
Of course. So besides the point, I mean, other than me just being an exceptional son who cooked dinner.
I put the salmon, and I did all the seasoning on the salmon, put the salmon on the cookie sheet.
Yeah.
I did that.
Really, really labor-intensive work right there.
So I want to tell you what a good dinner it was, Kev.
Thank you.
You did a great job.
I appreciate that.
And I think Alyssa was very happy.
I think in the pre-production meeting, I literally said, we don't need to talk about the food elements of this. And
Here we
are. But I want to talk about the gifts because she was supposed to come over for Christmas. You had gifts for her and she had gifts for us.
Right.
And the gifts she gave us were fantastic. She gave Dad an assortment of candies, which he will eat in the next 48 hours, that would take other people 4 to 5 years to eat. She gave me...
Well, actually, it was not an assortment. It was an assortment of weird black licorice, which he and her mother used to share the same weird palette for salty black licorice, hard, soft, anything. That's what it was.
Sounds like if there's multiple pieces of candy, it would be in an assortment.
Black licorice.
And so then she gave me a bunch of facial care products, which I'm excited to use. There's some red liquid that you pour on your face that is supposed to make you look 10 years younger, and I need it.
Yeah.
And then she gave you a bunch of great stuff
Yep.
that you will love as well. But the presents that were really the cool presents were
She called them the bonus gifts.
the bonus gifts. So I'm going to go out of order here. She gave you a little silver package that had your name written by her mom,
Yeah.
other Deb.
Yeah.
It was a gift that exists for you. She just had never given it to you.
So it was a little silver bag with a little gold, silver tag on it that she had handwritten Merry Christmas, love, Deborah. So it was in her handwriting, and which was so great to see. And then inside was, remember when we all had those little, like they could be different shapes, like little plastic, like
I would say
snowflakes.
in the late 90s, early 2000s, the way you decorated a table was you threw
confetti
yeah,
kind of things.
you threw small confetti-like product all over the table. You said, "Watch me dirty this table," but in a cool design way.
Right. And it was a mess, but great, right? On a table.
Yep.
In all different shapes.
If you've ever watched Below Deck, it's what they do with those fake rocks. They just kind of scatter them everywhere to add a little ambiance. That's exactly what these things were, except they were little metal snowflakes.
They were metal. And so you would keep them. They were from Crate and Barrel, and they were all different size of silver snowflakes.
Yep.
So Alyssa says, like, my mom, if she'd been at Crate and Barrel, she would have seen these. She would have thought, oh, I'm just going to buy 32 of these because somebody will stop by the house and I'll need a little something and I'll give it to this person and that person. Well, her dad was going through a lot of stuff and packing stuff up to give to Alyssa. And what was in the box? A little thing for me. So she brought it. But
so crazy. So that was, to think that a present exists for you that was never given to you, that I think is way older than just 5 years. I feels like 10 or 15 years.
For sure.
Then there's this small little, to even call it a present, it would be an exaggeration.
It's little.
It was wrapped in what it looked like red tissue paper, a couple pieces of tissue paper, almost in an envelope type fashion. And then there was just a little bit of ribbon wrapped around
Like a little raffia tie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sticking out of it, you could see were two drink stirs, like glass drink stirs.
Blown glass drink stirs.
One was a Christmas tree and the other one was a red ribbon. And it was from who?
It was from a woman named Paula Rodriguez.
From how long ago?
So it said to Debbie Zehner from Paula Rodriguez. I have not laid eyes on Paula Rodriguez since you were in elementary school.
It was a gift that was meant for my mother 28 years ago.
That Deborah clearly confiscated.
Paula Rodriguez entrusted Deb to give you this gift of high-end glass-blown drink stirs.
For sure.
And they had just been sitting in some room collecting
Wrapped.
dust. And I, as your child, was not given the gift of these phenomenal Christmas drink stirs for 28 years.
So I am telling you, those drink stirs are going to make the rounds. And they are going to randomly be from an elementary school mother that nobody knows.
I know she listens. Paula.
Paula does not
Paula, listen to me real quick. I am so sorry that you have been waiting for a thank you card for 28 years. And let me, on my super duper successful podcast, be the first to apologize on behalf of my entire family and say, I'm sorry, we never received this phenomenal gift of 2 drink stirs, even though there's 3 of us in the family. We loved them. They would have been better 28 years ago. And I just cannot express the deep sadness that we did not get to experience this when you had intended.
I don't think you should apologize on our behalf.
I'm apologizing for everybody involved. Everybody's culpable, minus me. Everybody's culpable.
Alyssa found them and delivered them to the right person. Deborah is the one that is clearly at fault here.
Paula, I'm so sorry. You deserved better than this. But know that you will live on as arguably the greatest gift giver of all time.
Yep.
You have set such a high mark with 2 hand-blown glass drinksters that are really only seasonal.
But we've got them now.
We're so proud to still be in your life.
That was funny. It was weird.
It was wild.
It was so great
To,
that she brought them.
to not only just have one gift that has clearly been around for a while, to
Right.
have 2, one from a second person who you haven't seen in 3 decades almost.
Well, and Alyssa has not gone through all of Deb's Christmas boxes.
There's probably
So I
some
think
stuff
there's
for me
more
in
to
there.
come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Alyssa, right? There's some stuff for me in there that I'm really looking forward to getting for the foreseeable Christmases. Wild time. I love you, Paula. Hard transition.
I love you, Alyssa.
But I love you more, Paula. Deb's business segment. We talked about what you needed to do to kind of shore up the end of 2020, short of just burning your business to the ground. Let's talk about all the things that need to happen heading into 2021, where 3 days into it, it's, as far as I'm concerned, the best year imaginable.
So when you talked about the business segment initially, you said realigning your business.
Because, do you know why I said that?
Why?
Because when I asked you this morning, what's the business segment
Yeah.
going to be, you said, and I have it in text, realigning your business.
Is that true?
Why would I have come up with that title by myself? Realigning your culture, realigning your business.
Does it say culture or business?
It says,
culture.
technically, we're both right. It's realigning your culture.
Okay, so it doesn't say business.
It said realigning,
Your culture.
but it also said realigning.
Okay, so you got the realignment
I did.
part right.
I was not a liar. Realigning your
You're
culture.
Killing me. Okay. So a lot of times businesses find, and this can happen within departments. I know we all think like Google and Facebook are the best places to work, and they might be really fun and really awesome and serve us great food and sushi on Thursdays or whatever.
And other companies might lie about their culture to say they're like Google and Facebook, and then they force you to put hot oil in your eye.
Exactly. But even companies like Google and Facebook have departments, have sections where things are not going well, where the team is not cohesive and where the culture is probably not as positive, and I would say as energetic as it could be for the team members or for the clients that they serve.
And when things go bad, that ends up in Congress.
It could. In Facebook, it could, for sure, and Google. So let's just call it a regular business owner, I think anybody that's owned a business for any length of time would know that there are times when the business owner just loves to come to work. They feel like everybody is positive, everybody is on the same page, like this is the group, I need them forever. Like you are happy to walk in, you are happy to be greeted by everybody, things run smoothly, and everybody owns their own piece of work as if they were the owner of that business. It can take just one person leaving and the introduction of a new person for all of that to change, or it can just take somebody's life going through maybe some challenges for all that to change. Because I know that every business owner knows what it's like to walk into their business and not want to be there.
Sure.
Because it doesn't feel like a good place to be.
We had a very successful restaurant that other people loved, that we could eat and drink whatever we wanted at any point in time. We could concoct anything. And we loathed going in there.
Not always.
Not always, but I mean, there were moments
there were times.
where we were like, are we really going to do this again?
I can remember one time in particular, Dad said to me, "Are you ever going in again?" And I said, "I'm praying to God, no." And he goes, "Well, it's not going to work like that." And I went in and fired 3 people, and then I was fine.
It was either fire 3 people or pray for a serial arsonist.
Yeah, it was, that happens. So I think that it's a little bit easier. I think it normally feels daunting if I go, I'm going to realign my culture, right? It feels pretty daunting to do that. But I don't think it's as hard as people really think it is. I'm going to give you some tips today that I think will make an otherwise seemingly daunting task, much, much easier. So one of the first things I think that you have to do is there has to be a very organized group meeting, whatever you want to call it, but everybody needs to know we've been here and we're going here. So you have got to take the details of your vision. You've got to say everything that you have thought was amiss or how it's gone wrong, and then you need to explain how you are going to do it better. So they need to really see your vision. With that, you need to also explain how things are going to change and adapt to make sure that that kind of thing happens. Because often your employees they can hear your vision just fine, but they're like, we can never do that.
Right.
I mean, that's just too much. So you've got to also really explain the framework of how how it's going to support the change, right? So I think the first thing is telling everybody and making sure that everybody is clear of what you want it to feel like when you walk in that office, what you want collaboration and teamwork to be, how you want to treat everybody, how you want, I'm going to say, vendors and our clients to be treated, the customer experience. You need to very specifically define that. Wherever it's been lacking, you've got to make sure that they know you want to do it differently. And wherever it's been good, you get to say, hey, I think we aced this, so this gets to stay the same. So the first thing is an explanation of your vision. The second thing would be, I think, just like I used that example real quick when we were talking about our restaurant, and I found myself not going in that often, and Dad said, you've got to go to work, right? And
by the way, I was one of those 3 people she fired.
And what I knew is 3 people had to go. I mean, they just had to go.
Was this more of I'm just firing 3 people because I need 3 new faces, or you knew the distinct 3 people that needed to go?
I knew the 3 that had to go.
Got it.
They had created they had created an alliance, if you will.
Sure.
Right? I mean, and they were going to do it their way no matter what.
They thought they were playing Survivor.
Yes, exactly.
But they didn't remember that you were Jeff Probst.
And they didn't I was feeding them, for God's sakes. Nobody was starving.
If you're in this household, that is a very topical reference that I just made, as I think
Yes.
we are like 7 seasons into just binge watching Survivor.
We're watching all the Survivor.
It's insane. Continue.
So, and the thing that ends up with a owner manager, what ends up happening, the reason you want to do that is that's hard to do. And why you avoid it is because I'm going to fire these people, right? I mean, that always makes everybody feel terrible.
How did you feel?
At the point that I decided to fire, really decided, I felt good. But before that, I felt terrible. I mean, it was like, because in some cases, there were aspects of them that were really good workers.
Just not together
and not wholly, right? And so you look at this one little thing and you try to hold on to it, and it's ridiculous, right? So anyways, let them go. And here's the truth of the matter. I would have rather gone in there and worked my butt off, which I did, to hold it together until I got 3 people hired and in there doing a great job, right? And then loved it again because it was a joy to go into my own workplace. So I will say this. I think that the owner manager needs to do a really clear inventory and reflection of where the problems are coming from. And if it is personnel, then, take care of that however is required. I'm going to say in your city, state, industry, the best way to do that.
Follow the law.
Follow the law, exactly. And then I think when you're hiring new people, I think that you need to think of people that are going to help create the culture that you want. And I think you share that vision that you've shared with your other employees, with a new person. I think you watch closely for their response. I think during the interview process, if somebody is super excited to go from, like maybe the screening interview to the in-person interview, they show up, they're ready, they're engaging when you talk to them. That's the kind of thing you're looking for, and what you're also going to tell them is really what won't be tolerated in your place for the customers that you're serving. So I do think that the hiring piece of it is when you have a chance to get rid of some, I'm going to say some negativity, then take the opportunity to really, really look.
So let me ask a couple questions, because there's going to be people who would push back, and they would push back on the extremes in that they would say, well, Deb, it's only me and one other person in my business. Like, we all know which direction we're pulling in, or it's me and 2 other people. That is probably short-sighted thinking, right? Meaning that just because you know it and you're around these people every day, that does not mean that they are picking it up by osmosis, especially if you're trying to deviate from the pre-established course. And then the second reference would be, Well, Deb, I have like 50 employees. I can't sit everybody down and say this is our new mission going forward.
Well, so somebody actually said that to me.
Whoa, topical.
And we were at a Ritz-Carlton event when it was happening. And they said, well, the Ritz-Carlton has like thousands and thousands and thousands of employees worldwide. I mean, it's much easier to do that than with my 50 employees. That's exactly not true. I mean, for you to be able to change the culture, of a company that has people that speak different languages, that they have actually different cultures, different things that they embrace, right? All over the planet. And you say this is the one culture we strive for. If they can do that with thousands and thousands of employees, then you actually can do it with 50, and it's really not that hard. And if it requires 3 meetings to split them up so that you can really have a good conversation, you do it, but it's not impossible at all. That's what I think.
Perfect.
I think the thing that makes most business owners, and I just had this with a client who had an employee that he knew he should get rid of, did not want to get rid of her because he felt like, he just felt like he didn't have the bandwidth to hire a new person, in his schedule, right? And then train the new person and do all the work until the person was trained, which can sometimes, depending on the industry, be months, not days or weeks.
Right.
And I said, give her a grade. Give her a grade of her performance right now. And he said, C-. I'm like, C-? She's doing a C-. That's hardly anything. Like a C- isn't a helper, right? And she ended up leaving. And immediately, I think he felt like the pressure of stuff coming on him. And that pressure was not as bad as trying to coax somebody that was a C- to do their job.
Interesting.
So I think you feel the relief of it right away.
Sure.
And then he got somebody in that was like so happy and eager to work that was like fresh air, even if they couldn't do everything she could do right away. So I think one of the things when you're trying to create an open door policy, because you're really trying to change, it's like a ship that you're changing directions on, right? And you want your message heard over and over and over again. And so I do think it's one of the time that we really go through, we have an open door policy. With management, we have an open door policy. We will explain how it applies to you. We will explain how it applies to your team. We will explain how it applies to your department over and over and over again until everybody gets it. Because we want to have that connection, number one, so that we all feel like we're on the same page. And what we want them to know is that we're serious about it. It's so serious that our doors are wide open. I'll talk to you anytime about this. If you're embracing it, I'm here for you. And if you don't understand it, or if there's a piece of it that you're confused about, I'm also here for you to explain that to you. So I really do think accessibility for the person in charge and approachability to be able, people, where maybe normally they're not stopping you in the hall all the time, but this is the one time to have that door wide open because you are trying to shift something big. Okay?
Locked and loaded.
And then I think often there are daily operations of the company that a lot of employees just don't know or understand the why of. And some of it is because it's not their job, right? And they don't have to. And then some of it is, it's just like, it doesn't come across their desk. They're not familiar. But I think if it really holds some of the whys and wherefores in terms of this new thing that we're trying to accomplish, then I think it's the one time that you share kind of your operational goals with people. And even I'm going to say, if you can pass some of those things down into the workforce so that there's more responsibility spread with that, then people will get the big why much quicker than, if they're just watching somebody else do it or not having any regard for that being anywhere in their responsibility. So again, delegate, and shove some of that down. And then I think the last thing as you do this is it's your job to be the example. You've got to say please, you've got to say thank you. When people are approaching you all day because you're trying to change the direction of the ship, I think you need to act like you appreciate that. When people are asking you questions about this new way of doing things, I think you have to have good positive energy for that. And I think it's when you really take the time. Somebody asks me a question, right? I don't just answer the question, but I connect with them. I look at them and I say, gosh, I can't thank you enough for paying this kind of attention, because this is going to make a difference in the direction we go.
Yeah.
So I really do think that positive feedback right away is just a huge thing. And I think what'll happen is you're trying to drive this culture. I mean, it's going to feel better for you. It's going to feel better for the employees. But I mean, very quickly, your client base is going to feel it. And it's going to be like, oof, what happened here? This is awesome. And so I don't think it's that hard. I just think you have to be committed to it. I think you have to hold it tight. And I think you have to be the one that provides the vision and direction.
If you want your business to change, you have to be the impetus for it, and you have to be the captain of that change vessel. And the best way to have it, the best way to get it moving forward is to implement it and then throw a bunch of positivity towards it.
And it really is. I mean, the big question in all of this is, who do we want to be collectively? Who do we want to be? And I mean, I would say to people who have not yet had the responsibility of managing people, you possibly played on some kind of team in high school. I mean, you were, people were in sororities, fraternities. I mean, and it really becomes like, do we want to be mean girls? Do we want to be gossips? Who do we want to be? And that's what you're trying to change from the top up. This is who we want to be. And if this is who we want to be, then this is how we get there. And these other things are no longer acceptable.
I love it. That all makes sense to me. That all checks out.
The realignment of culture?
The realignment of culture, like I was saying from the very beginning. Pulling the curtain back here, for 41 episodes. This is
like a lot.
It is a lot, because most podcasts don't get past 3 episodes. For 41 episodes, Deb and I have literally come up with all of our own content, meaning we have just thought, what can we naturally do on this show that will be meaningful to people? If we want to see another 41 episodes, we can't just come up with our own stuff. We'd be able to kind of source things that are similar to what we do, but then put our own creative spin on it, right? So if you think about all the really successful podcasts, there's business podcasts who just talk about the business happenings in the world. There's news podcasts that, are just literally handpicking current events to talk about. Sports has been doing that for forever. So nobody's generally coming to the table with their own formulated thoughts and opinions, right?
Right.
Thank you. So what I said is, I believe you are at your best when you are giving people advice. I believe I'm at my best when you're giving people advice and I'm just adding some anecdotal humor to everything.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
While I'd like to believe that our tens of thousands, if not millions of listeners would love to ask our advice, sometimes that's just too much to put on the shoulders of our listeners. So instead, what I thought was, I'm going to find a resource that overlaps with this, that has pre-generated content that we can take. We're going to give them credit for it only once, which is right now. And we will then just use it to populate our podcasts with, right? Does that make sense?
So we're going to say what other people have said?
No, we're going to take parts of what other people have said, and then we are going to do it in the form of giving advice. And the best person I knew to steal from was Dear Abby. People would write to her and ask questions of her all the time. And I don't know that she was anybody special, right? I don't think she had like a doctorate. I don't think she was like a clinical psychologist.
I don't know. I think she was just an advice
giver.
giver.
She just gave advice. So
But
that has...
Did Abby give business advice?
So I found a massive website for all Dear Abby questions. And Dear Abby has spawned into 1,000 different people giving advice. And there's one woman in particular who gives business advice. So I am co-opting that element of what they do. And we are going to take questions that were submitted to the Dear Abby coalition.
Yeah.
Mostly having to do with business.
Yes.
And we're just going to rebrand it as Dear Debbie. And
So-
I'm going to pose the questions to you, and you are going to be able to give your advice on it. and acknowledge that advice has already been given. So we're not stepping on anybody's toes.
I don't know the advice though, do I?
Well, it's going to be coming from your head.
Are
Meaning,
we only stealing the question?
yeah.
Okay. I
It
got
wouldn't be
now.
fun
I
if we
got
were
it.
just reading word for word.
I know,
No.
that was weird.
The idea is we're taking the question that was submitted to Dear Abby, we're rebranding it Dear Debbie. It will have a business spin to it most times. If not, then it'll just be a fun question that I found that I think will be hilarious to read. But you can give your advice because I often believe that your advice is the best. But I will say this, I was super duper proud of myself because I just read through some of these and some were business related, some were family related. And then before I read what the answer was, I came up with what I thought the answer would be that you would say.
Right.
Spot on.
Oh, okay. Good.
Spot on. Like there was a question somebody asked. It was a mother and her son had recently married a woman who was older, who by like 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
And she had a daughter who had some mental issues, who was 18 years old, but she like kind of lashed out in anger. And so the mother was saying the older daughter is really aggressive. She's been known to hit the mom. She's been known to hit my son. My son and his wife just recently had a new baby. And I'm worried for the baby's sake because, you know, the baby can't be left alone with the daughter. And I'm just wondering what my role in this is. And I said to myself, you have no role. Eject yourself from the equation. This is not your fight. That's exactly what Dear Abby said.
Good.
So,
I like that. So I do. I should say this. So I haven't been a Debbie for a long time, but I will be. I'm fine with that.
it sounds better if I say Dear Debbie.
I agree. And I've never been a DEBBY, but let's be her for that.
Well, I think
because-
this Abby goes ABBIE.
Oh, okay. Then we can go IE because
Yeah.
I'm an IE girl. I don't know. This could be. I mean, it could be fun.
This is
I'm
a
just
home run.
wondering if it will be fun.
This is a home freaking run.
Okay, let's try it.
He says, having no idea. First question. Dear Debbie, I have a business partner whom I want to buy out of our business. We integrated our two businesses because they went together hand in hand and we were both able to offer the other a benefit. My business has been thriving since the partnership, but her business and programs have been plummeting. Enrollment is down, and I believe her increase in prices could be the cause of this. We have had meetings to plan ways to fix the drop in business, but she shoots down all of our ideas and suggestions. The partnership isn't working anymore. There is a lot of potential, but she is driving it into the ground. I know that the programs can improve, but my partner is the biggest obstacle. She's behind on rent. The money isn't coming in. I'm in a position where I can take on full ownership and buy her shares right from her. She built the company 20 years ago, and I don't want to hurt her feelings when I tell her this is her best and only option. Debbie, how do I dump my partner?
Wow, that was a lot.
That's one of the shorter ones.
Okay,
So I
well-
might try to expedite the other ones, but obviously she provides a lot of context, and she's looking for you.
Is it a she? Do we know?
And
that
well,
wrote it?
the partner is a she.
Okay. Well, first of all, what was the last sentence? Not how do I dump, the sentence before that.
I don't want to hurt her feelings when I tell her this is her best and only option.
Okay.
The option being the partner buying her out.
So, first of all, don't tell her that this is her best and only option. I
Don't.
mean, that's not going to work well for you.
That just immediately puts her on her haunches.
Exactly. That's not how you start a negotiation. And you probably are going to hurt her feelings somewhere along the line, right? Though I do think you can do it as gracious as possible. I think with this, it just really becomes, if you start a lot of the sentences with you know, your numbers are plummeting, you're behind in rent, you, all of that, it's going to go very badly.
You sentences come across as accusatory.
And
Accusatory.
And they also come across for the person that says it as if they're superior or all-knowing. And so that's not the attitude we want to have.
No, it's not.
This is somebody that it sounds like they care about and respect. And so we want to keep that, you know. So I would just, number one, get them off premises and sit down and say, look, we're having a problem. You obviously know, we've talked about it before. What are you thinking? And try to just genuinely get some real data out of them as to where they are. Then I think if they seem open, and especially if it's things you take cues like, I'm exhausted with this. It's killing me. Those kinds of things that people are saying. This isn't the way I wanted it to be. Then I think you give them several options so they feel like they have a choice.
Would you do that in the moment? If I'm the partner and I come up to you and I say, oh my gosh, I couldn't close this other deal. This is the 5th deal this week I couldn't close. I'm so over this. What do you say in that moment?
So if they offered that up to you like that, I would be like, oh my gosh, I feel terrible about that. Let's go have a coffee or a drink tonight and talk about it, right? Because then that's a really nice entree to that, correct? I do think, though, in this business relationship they have, it would be very hard if you came together with somebody and one partner is excelling and the other one is doing terrible, for there not to be some jealousy or some resentment or some kind of things going on. So you've got to make sure that you really build a foundation of trust, that what you're trying to do is truly best for everybody. And that's really the only way you get to have that conversation. I mean, you earn it, right? But telling her, you gotta go, because, I mean, kind of like you're a loser, you're not doing it right. And that's your best option, by the way. I don't think any of that language works.
Because this partner, regardless of circumstances, still gets to say no.
Still gets to say no. I do think, and this is not on day one or conversation one, I do think down the road, I mean, the other partner who is more enlightened to what's going on, I mean, gets to say, like, hey, I've got to extract myself from this. I mean, that could be the final thing that would do it, because obviously that partner's carrying a piece of the load. But I think if you really want somebody to feel okay when you break up something like this, I think it's you tread softly and you take your time getting them there, and you use some of their own language to help you create your case. That's what I think. I think you can if somebody's in that kind of situation, I feel like I could do that deal pretty fast and not have them be upset.
How do you think this segment's going so far?
Is it fun?
I think it's perfect.
Okay. I don't know if this is fun. I don't know if that's the right answer.
You know what it does? Is it takes my 1-minute hypotheticals and it puts it on steroids.
Oh, okay. So I'm doing more work.
Right. It's not, no, yes. Yes. In theory.
Yes.
Yes, you are. I mean, to be fair, I had to do a lot of work. I had to like Google search this stuff, and that was
but now you know where it is.
Very labor intensive. Dear Debbie.
Here we go.
I am an entrepreneur with a small business. For several years now, I have worked without an assistant because I just couldn't afford to have help. We've all been there. Who wouldn't love an assistant?
A million times.
Recently, I hired one full-time helper, but I realize I need more help. There is just too much work for this one person to handle. Amazingly, during this period of quarantine, my business is growing. We have been working around the clock, it seems, to respond to calls and to handle new business. I'm so grateful, but I'm also afraid to add to my bottom line expenses. After more than 2 months of working every day, including weekends, with no real time off, my assistant and I are exhausted, and I know I have to do something. How can I be sure that I will be able to keep a second person on the payroll in these uncertain times? Actually, that one was shorter than the first one.
Well, so one of the biggest things that can
Let's call this person Jan.
Jan. One of the biggest things that can kill a business actually is too much growth, because they're unable to handle it, right? It's the story of when, some cute little Dutch guy makes that little stroopwafel and he's only selling, 20,000 of them a year, and then Starbucks wants them, right? And he goes and overinvests in, space and equipment, and then Starbucks cancels their contract the next year. It's that kind of thing. That's what everybody's afraid of, right? But here's what we know. I mean, if you're to the point where you're working all the time, 24/7 almost, and now he's hired one person and they're immediately working 24/7, I think where owners get caught in this kind of thing. So I have to pay, if I hire this next person, I have to pay them, let's just say $48,000 a year, right? And they go, I can't afford $48,000 a year. It's way too much. Well, you don't actually pay them $48,000 a year. You pay them $2,000 a payday. I mean, you've got to break it down like that. I mean, you're only paying them $2,000 increments at a time. And if you don't think they can pay for themselves, then you do have to find another way to do it. But in most cases, what I'm going to say is that when you get that person in and they realize, oh, I can't afford that $2,000 increment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, I'm thinking like every other week they get paid twice a month, right? That $2,000 increment. Well, then what they get to do is relieve themselves of time to actually work on the business, to make the business more efficient, to make the business more profitable, to really look at the expenses and manage them how they should be, because somebody working like that person, like Jan described, isn't doing any of that. I already know it. So I would say you almost can't afford to not do it.
So there's an element of like reading the tea leaves too.
Right.
Saying you are asking a question about something because you probably already know the answer. Meaning if there's two of you carrying the workload and you're still stressed and burning the midnight oil, you probably already know that you need a third person.
Right.
But what you're saying is you can't look at it for 365 days. You need to look at it in increments to make sure that this person over the 365 days actually makes sense for the business if we go month to month.
Right. And I mean, and one of the things I think it's great when a business owner like builds the business, starts the business, knows all those things. But I can go into almost any business owner and go, you don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. You don't need, let's give this away. Let's give this away. Let's give this away. And I mean, I think if they're working nights and weekends to people, it sounds like there's a full-time job available for somebody else.
For sure.
I mean, 2 weekend days times 2, and then the evenings. I mean, really simply. And I mean, if you want to save money, then take the jobs that are, I'm going to say, need less authority, are, no other way to say it, more to the bottom of the totem pole. Do you know what I mean?
Menial tasks.
Yeah. And take all those and create a job out of it, and then that saves you some money. And then you get to grow that person in position and not do what you feel like is maybe a higher paid income right away.
Start them at part-time.
Or start them at part-time. Yeah. So I think what'll happen is you'll just get too tired. You won't care.
Right.
And that other person you hired will get so tired they'll leave. And then you're going to be in a terrible position.
We hope that helps you, Jan.
Did you just make Jan up?
Of course.
Okay.
I have no idea who Jan is. I have no idea who submit these questions. They all give little quirky sign-offs at the end. Like the first one was reviving the business. And you're like,
that's not their name.
Well, clearly nobody's name is first name reviving, middle name the, last name business. But they don't actually give their names. And then Abby or whoever says, dear reviving the business.
Oh, okay.
But I like real names. Unless you want to come up with fake names, then we can call them Sheboygan. Sheboygan writes, Dear Debbie, during the quarantine and shutdown, I closed my nail salon for 10 weeks. This one might be long. I had all the ups and downs, fears and frustrations people talk about. One huge one was based on the fact that we were told to close for 2 weeks to flatten the curve, but they picked certain industries. Okay. So while we small businesses complied 100% in the fervent hope of reopening as soon as possible, the big box stores packed in the customers. The garden centers, grocery chains, and hardware stores were completely crowded with no regulations, leading to the 10-week shutdown for the rest of us. Unfortunately, my frustration bubbled over onto a friend when I called to see how she was faring. We have been friends on and off for years. She lives a few towns away and has a similar small personal service business. She reported that she'd found a loophole and gotten her business deemed essential so she could stay open. She has a face-to-face business where she touches people's bare skin. As carefully as I could, but through clenched teeth, I asked her how she could justify elevating her services above mammograms and dental exams and such, which were all suspended. I was incensed because I felt she put us all at risk of staying home longer, and we all needed to work. I could hear that I highly offended her, and the rest of the call was strained. We have not spoken since. I am now sorry, even though I firmly believe what she did was the height of bad ethics. I'm afraid to initiate any apology that could delve into explanations and make things worse, but I do want to try to apologize. Debbie, what's your advice for her, for Sheboygan?
So for Sheboygan, if Sheboygan would have been my client at the beginning of COVID, I would have said, because I did say this to everybody, how can you make yourself essential?
Oh,
Do not accept the label of you being non-essential if you don't have to accept that label, right? So, and that's because I wanted my clients' businesses to be able to manage through it,
Yep.
right? But I want to say that I gave that advice also with a huge caveat of how are you going to redesign your business to make it safe to do that. So, and a lot of money was spent doing that. A lot of protocols were changed because you needed to be safe, right, in doing that. I think, first of all, I think that Sheboygan is just more upset with everything than she is with her friend.
clearly.
I think she's upset about COVID. I think she's upset about, it felt like there's like a little political thing in there for her a little bit. I mean, clearly she's resentful of the giant box stores, and I give that to her. I mean, like, how come Costco gets to be open, but the little mom and pop grocery or
Little
whatever
deli
doesn't?
store, yeah.
The little deli store doesn't, right? And so, I mean, I can stand with her in that place all day long. And, you know, the answer is because we need them. And it was the easiest way, right, to just pick large places and have it be that. Here's the thing. Her friend found a loophole. It sounds like it was legitimate. I mean, her friend was authorized to be open by whatever the powers were to be in her town. We all know that a different town, a different county can do things so differently. And her friend took advantage of opportunity is what she did. I don't think, I mean, be mad at the town, be mad at the mayor, be mad at the city council, I guess. But I mean, being mad at your friend, because the truth of the matter is her friend is not single-handedly out there spreading COVID any more than the big box stores,
Totally.
were, right?
She pivoted. In order to keep her doors open, she pivoted to something that allowed her to continue to make money, to continue to keep people employed, and to continue to serve the local economy.
Her clients, right.
And that's, I mean, if there's one thing that we learned from all of this, it's that creativity was rewarded last year, not this year, last year. Creativity was rewarded. And if you were able to think outside the box and to do things that could help you get through this time, which we are still trying to push through, people saw it, responded to it, appreciated it, and then rewarded you with it in the form of business. Restaurants who were, I mean, because we depending on what community you're from, all of a sudden restaurants could just give you booze. Nobody was policing that.
Walk out the door with booze.
But somebody said, as long as we don't give you like a bottle, or if we just pour this massive, margarita in a gallon for you, this is yours. That's an amazing way to generate income, even if for the short term, right? I talked about how in San Francisco, they had the requirements that it could be no more than 25% of the people in the building. So they went and built food stalls in the road.
Right, right.
These are the things that you needed to think about, because if you did just sadly sit on your hands and wait for the government to do right by you, you took a massive hit.
Well, I remember somebody from Colorado sent me something that was written by the governor of what was non-essential. And I was like, they sent it to me. I read this huge long thing. I said, you are not listed on this. You are not listed. Do not close. I mean, make somebody pound on your door and give you a warning, right, before you close. And I also think that with some of my clients, some of the things that before COVID, if I would have ever suggested that they do some of the things they've done and are currently doing,
mortified.
They would have looked at me and gone, you are a flippin' loon.
Can I have my money back, please?
But what's happening now is people have been so innovative and have come up with these incredible ideas. Some they won't ever use again after COVID. And then there'll be a few of them that they just keep around because it works.
Sure.
And the clients liked it.
Yep.
So I don't think that, here's what I think the apology is about. I think she needs to understand what she's really mad at. And I don't think it's her friend. I mean, I don't think it is. And so what I think she needs to just say is, and hopefully this would be, a face-to-face kind of thing, is you're really important to me. This thing has been an unbelievable stress. I'm so worried about my business. I wish that I would have had the wherewithal, if I could have, with my business, to find a loophole like you did. I didn't. And I've somehow held you accountable for things that are not even in your space.
Sure.
And the friendship is more important to me than that conversation we had. I'm sorry. I mean, I just think that's it.
I hope you hear this, Sheboygan, and I hope you use this exact advice.
Yeah.
I think that's bulletproof
Sheboygan
advice.
is just frustrated. I feel bad for her.
I do too.
Yeah.
I feel bad for Sheboygan, not only for her business, but also her name.
Yeah.
That's the segment. That's Dear Debbie.
Oh, that's okay. That wasn't
No,
horrible or painful.
of
No, that
course
worked out.
not.
And there's no one here grading me, so.
No. And here's the thing. If you guys want to take it upon yourself to fact check what actually was said, it exists online. And I choose to believe that every piece of advice uttered here is infinitely better than what anybody else said on that website.
We're going to at least really talk it out.
Yeah, because they're only given like 4 or 5 paragraphs. Who wants to read 4 or 5 paragraphs?
And if you disagree, will you speak up for the future?
Will I?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
There's
I
not
like
much
that.
in here that I would have disagreed about at all. I don't think I would have disagreed about anything because I don't know that I think that much different than you
On some of these.
on
Yeah.
most of this.
Yeah.
That's Dear Debbie. And of course, as we say always, if you have advice that you want us to give to you and then not be held legally accountable for, by all means, shoot us a DM, shoot us a text, give us a call. Happy to do so. Happy to do so. As we wind down, Deborah, I'm so tired of the holiday season. It's officially in the rearview mirror.
It is.
I have ingested so much heavy cream, so much eggnog. I thought I was going to start the diet on January 1st. Not the diet, just getting back to being healthy.
Eating healthy.
Then I realized we still had a full half gallon of eggnog left. And if there's one thing I'm not, it's wasteful.
I told you to throw it away.
I didn't. I threw it away in the form of consuming it. I feel gross. My body hates me, but I will not throw away
Good eggnog.
good eggnog. So that being said, I think today was the last day for the eggnog.
Okay.
Thank the good Lord.
Good.
We had something green for the first time in months.
Well,
it
you
felt
almost, I felt like there was a tear in your eye when you begged me to make a chicken Caesar salad.
I just
last
said,
night.
I know it's simple, but can we please just have a salad?
Yeah.
And you said, of course.
Yeah.
We haven't had any roughage since October.
We haven't had solid food. Yeah.
So what are we going to do for dinner this evening?
Well, thanks to, to Parker for giving it to you, but to the lovely Megan, who's married to Parker.
Sadly.
Poor Megan.
Poor Megan.
We should rescue her from there, shouldn't
I
we?
think we've tried, but she's got that Stockholm syndrome and she's just in it for the long
It could
haul.
be the kids. She can't run with 2 kids under her arms.
That's true.
Yeah.
Not that Parker can run fast, but he could definitely catch her with the 2 kids.
He'd get on his bike.
He would get on his bike, spandex and all.
Exactly. He gave you a recipe that she'd made and said it was fabulous.
Yeah, he goes, you should try this. I said, try what? He's like, this meal.
Which was super funny, I thought. I mean, so it's chicken thighs with, it's a mixed orzo rice kind of thing with a lot of other little good stuff in it. We obviously aren't going to do the orzo because it's not gluten-free, but we'll just add extra rice. And I think it sounds delicious to me. And he kind of raved about it.
Oh yeah. I mean, he sent the recipe and
So
it looks delicious.
We'll publish the real recipe and then just know that we just used all rice because we're gluten-free. But you can do whatever you want with the recipe.
Just know that.
Yeah.
That's going to be delicious and nutritious. We've had so much red meat.
Yeah, this will be good.
What are you thankful for? Besides the obvious that we're in a brand new year.
Well, I am thankful for that. But I am really thankful because one day this week I said, I think I want to take the Christmas tree decorations down.
It was abrupt. It was wake up, come downstairs. Hey, how are you? Good. Hey, so what do you think about taking the Christmas decorations down? And I was just like, huh? Like I feel like you need to work yourself up to that. And you're like, today.
And so while you were at the gym, I took all the little things and just set them on the dining room table. And then I came down later and oh my God, everything was packed up. The tree was down and put away.
Yep.
I could have hugged you and kissed you all day long. That was the best thing in the world. We left a little bit on the mantle, just some candles and, for a week or so. But it was really funny because you started to bring take down the lights outside. And I said, oh, let's leave those up for a little while because I still like them. And then I said, let's wait until Dad says take down the lights. And we both agreed it could be July. And right before we walked in here, Dad said, hey, do you know where that paper is for the lights?
Oh, I thought you were
Yeah.
going to ruin this because we
No.
had a bet.
Yeah.
You and I said, if we don't say anything, how long will it take for him to take the lights down?
Right.
Not for anything other than we were just bored and we wanted something to bet on. And I said, ooh, that's a really good question. The over-under might be June.
Yeah, I said July. And then he just said, hey, does Kev know where that paper is? I said, I know where it is. He wraps the lights up in a butcher paper thing. And he said, oh, find it for me and I'll take them down. So I felt like I had hardly any work. It just all came down seamlessly, maybe abruptly, but seamlessly. And I'm grateful for all the people involved. Thank you very much, Kev.
You're thankful that you didn't have to go through the emotional turmoil of breaking down Christmas.
I don't know if it's emotional turmoil.
It is for me because
Okay.
on the other side of it, it's just the rest of the year.
Well, Valentine's Day is
And
coming.
I still have some PTSD from last year.
Yeah.
So just being stricken with the idea that like, nope, here we are. We're just going to live out this year was a little
Did you think we should
sobering.
have left Christmas up for another month or so?
At least until September.
Well, I'm grateful that it's down. The house feels good. You did an incredible job, so thank you very much.
Of course, I am thankful. We've talked about the compliment cast. The compliment cast keeps on giving. You received a lovely appreciation text message that you shared with me. It was so kind. It was so sweet. It was so sincere. I won't embarrass the person who sent it, but it was over the top generous with the verbiage, and it definitely made it dusty for me with the links that she made within the complimenting of us. It's just amazing to see that something that we did, over a week ago is still kind of reaping the rewards, and it's beyond humbling, but I'm certainly thankful for that moment.
Yeah, we've got some very good feedback, which was really nice. And people were really, really appreciative. And again, I just say it was like a mirror. It just came back at us 1,000 times. So whatever we did feels small now compared to what's been given back to us. And we are incredibly grateful for that.
Couldn't agree more. That's going to do it for us on this brand new year Monday episode of the Deb and Kev podcast. Remember to like, rate, and review wherever you listen to us. If you want to see our shining faces, my eye has properly healed now. Find us on our YouTube channel and then follow us on all of our social channels as well. Mom, I love you.
I love you, baby.
We'll see you guys on Thursday.
Thank you for listening to the Deb and Kev podcast. Remember to like and subscribe wherever you listen to this podcast. Follow Deb and Kev on Facebook and on Instagram and Twitter @DebandKevPod.